question. So you may have an interest in things in this life. That is what is lawful or law. That's a pillar of law. L-A-R-L-O-R-E. But the moment you expect an answer for a question that you impose, lawful or not, of course, defining, if you expect it or wish to believe that you're entitled to, this may be called seizure. It might also be called contamination. Understand? Law, like poetic license, in opposed to poetic justice. Then it could also be called a blemish. It may also be defined or seen as deface, to deface or defacement of that lawful abode. The greater synergy that promotes infinicy. The greater law, the greater abode, the greater synergy that rests with absolution. Yes, fancy using your head. Now look, science is conscious utility. Fancy using your head. The medical breakthrough. You know? You're using your head. So we're getting into psychedelics. Like, it'd be very, very offensive, but that's exactly what science is. You say psychedelics is a very dangerous path in which to cross as far as human affairs, customary upbringings or something like that. People can be very sensitive. We act like we're actually a foster family in bed with one another before we can suggest anything else. I don't want to suggest for the life of me that I'm going to take two things and piece it together, even like off the back of my own expense, without, forfeiting the right of being able to, either what? Conscientiously sort of, use my head, or in a sensitive manner touch on things even that ought to be desensitized. Fancy if you were the one bringing it to the right? No different than if, everyone in the world remembers they've got herpes, but it requires you to bring it up before you smack it with lipstick or Zavorax wax or some crap. I don't suppose just like every sop and wound in the world, it requires the same kind of thing. Bury the hatchet's a great thing that, Western nations have been found to do within their own sort of, brush tactics, Operation Broken Cellar or something. Get a really deep corkscrew and pull out the freaking core of that infection, and before you know it, the remaining pus just falls out. Fancy the difference between having to bottle it up in the first place or keep the wax over the wick, or the wick within the wax. It wouldn't take much to sort of skull to the surface, or melt knock a bit of cream off the top kind of thing, and voila, you've got into the core once again, you might say. So therefore we ought to keep a vigil, shouldn't we? We ought to be very vigilant. Very vigilant. Even with obstacles in life, you've really got to be able to tackle some of the toughest, most vigorous, training sessions in the world to ensure that whatever you're negotiating in life, the wage set of circumstances is no different than social distancing yourself from influences beyond dead at point A but alive at point B. Little green faggot is just as warm as anybody trying to pull the Woolworth over my eyes. It could all start with hepatitis. You could have ears to your ground only to get Mondayitis and forgot that you didn't tie the shoes on your head or something. Now your ears were to the ground the entire time. You couldn't hear a damn thing. But I spy with my little eye something beginning with psychedelics. Right, okay, so we've established that. So to be able to illustrate for people is like the English language itself, as a doctor might actually fail to study. You could study a branch of medicine. Next minute you're studying what? A branch of psychology? Or are you being kind of, are you really sensitive? Are you using your head? Is this some radical new therapy to find gravity on Earth or something? You know? I know we'll just escape the wrath of infection, you know, right? Even though a lot of people, you know, subservient to those natures or degrees of upbringing are no different than the ones that you hear, you know, jobs or clerical work positions in this world really do, you know, they really are assessed by personality alone. And like a world forever sort of imploding on themselves, right? Fancy needing a lap dance from a psychiatrist. If they study a branch of medicine and someone says, I'm trying to crack the core of some infection, you might say, geez, to be any more sensitive about the shit, right? To be blunt about it, well, that's a bit being blunt and exactly sharp. I'm not sure how shit could remain sharp unless you let it be. It takes a while for the dog shit to become a piece of furniture in the house that you use for an ashtray holster or something to rest your bloody smartphone on or something, to give it that angle to, you know, to avoid the light where you can't see things in a right shade or contour or something. It's very important to know that reflection in the pale moonlight that the devil talks about. Yeah. But of course, like diamonds reflect, they don't actually shine either. Only to sort of, in fact, yes, you know, seize opportunity to actually shed light on the fact. Because what is it to see a hardcore situation? A lot of people probably just say that they're hardcore without using their head. You probably think you're hardcore, but you're not hardcore. You actually just find things really hard. Sort of like wanting to get your dick sucked without charge. You know, could you imagine having to pay through the skin of your teeth for shit like that for other people? You say you're always playing with it before you actually stick it somewhere to get charged anyway. What is an impotent world without sort of, you know, going the whole 10 yards, let's say? Can't knock the cream off the top of something and say, oh yeah, it's all revealed. That's like saying, what is circumcision in opposed to a circumspect vision? Are we referring to genital mutilation, ladies and gentlemen? Psychedelic as it may seem to touch on something sensitive. But of course it would be offensive, wouldn't it? Absolutely. It would be offensive to see people with half of their fucking face missing at some stage in their life. You know, it grows out to be that superseded issue that sees even the hair on your face provide a sense of muchacho. You make nachos out of your own damn toenails. And so, you know, I'm going to break back the evidence and reveal something like, you know, a wicked, evil thing. Well, fancy the autopsy on every vague but yet unfortunate rule or set of circumstances that presents to most people in their clerical positions as one that ought to fucking leave its office and don't come back, otherwise they'll call the police instead. They're not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. There's a big difference between that. When you're with psychiatrists, you end up on the front of your seat. You know, you're not really comfortable. But with a psychologist, they have an amazing way to help you sink back in your chair. And that's when the swelling and everything starts to appear worse than what it first was. You weren't really swelled up and a bit tense. You were too goddamn tense. No, you've got fractures. Yes. And those fractures can be rather ugly. Yeah, nothing that medicine or anything could cut out, but they could certainly rub some shit into it. Sort of like keep it cold, like herpes, or encephalitis, or the Black Death plague, or coronavirus, or let's just say carcinogenic factors that start pissing in your stomach those few weeks before giving birth to something genetic. You say it wasn't really the baby bump or the baby kicking. It was just the carcinogenic factors pissing. The carcinogen was pissing like a hot water system. I had to give it a test. I had to flush it out. You know, I'm not an ant. I am not a tadpole, but I am not an ant. I'm not an auntie. I might be an auntie or an aunt to somebody else's third party or second party. How can I feel like I'm psychiatric if I was only born something psychiatric? Well, I am not an ant. I am not a tadpole. I am not a faggot that fell out of myself. I am not a maggot that fell out of my dead self. I gave birth to a maggot and I survived. Right? I remember the time when I took somebody's hard meat and put it into my mouth. And I started to assess, what is this all about? It was not a rabbit paw and it was not monkey's balls. It did not attach itself to a scepter. Mamacita did not get a sweaty bandana and just stick it on her broom until the next time she sweeps in the mid to early afternoon tea. Right? No, it wasn't even Banjo Patterson swag, waltzing a Matilda. Right? Yeah. Right? No, it wasn't. It was lipstick on the end of a broomstick. It was lipstick on the end of a broomstick. I am a psychologist. I am a right? I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a oncologist. I'm not an on-call neurosurgeon. I am more like a proctologist, and we all should be fervently mindful of the firmament between the earth and the heavens. There's a greater firmament than just being able to put your feet on the ground sometimes. It's like fighting just to get up. Fancy if all the lava in the earth did was just fight to spew its guts up. Right? No. No, 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 no. It was not any of that. If I was waltzing with any Matilda, I would duck walk it like a dead washing machine to a cliff and chuck it off. That's what you do in life, right? You act like we're all cut from the same cloth, but who the fuck would want to be wiped with their fucking, you know? You keep your own toilet paper, and if you need to use paper plates, some people haven't learned to wipe their own ass, let alone their face. In 104,000 years, they wouldn't provide the dignity to anyone to give them a spare roll. You know? To be able to keep their mental health in check, or what it is to throw things into psychological disrepute. I'm sorry, I got nowhere in the body to hang today. I just need something to open up and find the crap inside. Right? And then get to its core and hit it. So I'll keep with the lipstick on the broom for now, idiot. Right? I did not run after a washing machine that fell off a cliff like a hawk with perfect air under its wings and stomp it into the ground with transformer foot pedals and then bounce off like a bloody googie egg that would, you know, with the capabilities that would make a freaking cold-blooded lizard be jealous. That's right. The way that a tongue can scale itself over your body, or the way that a military tank or remote-controlled car can actually climb over any freaking thing. Might not be a red devil giving birth to 2,000 eggs at once, just shitting all over a fucking rock in its aquarium environment. The types that would see people just put too much custard on their fucking fruitcake or something, right? So I headed for where the sun didn't shine, and there's no branch of medicine that follows that. Yeah, psychedelics. I was very sensitive to scribble helter-skelter on the back of somebody's pharynx and go running after it with a cotton bud. Right? Yeah, no shit. No shit. Swear to God. I swear to God. Right? This is far beyond you thinking, right, that it's okay to play Paul Volton, right, with, track and field. Right? And holding on to it for 8.1 seconds no matter how hard you squeeze. You know what I mean? It can be very disturbing to need a Maylave in opposed to a spirit stick. And so I need to find myself a gas cylinder, right? Which is a bit like the containment of a human being that finds themselves too hot for their shit, right? Strut their ass like a bitch that couldn't even dust the planet she came from before she tricked in a man to want to go back to the shitty pad she couldn't even fucking keep clean. No warmth shows up to her heaven. The world had to escape her through a form of pleurisy. Don't talk about shit or celery, right? Right? And find liquid nitrogen or something, you know. The cold-blooded bitch knows exactly what she's doing. She's not really acclimatized to a world where Venus had to rush to the bitch's rescue like for a place fit for Piggy in the middle. Life is fit for a vegetable. Life is fit for a mineral. Life is fit for an animal. But to fall out of your fucking mother and say, oh no, this carcinogen was actually just pissing. You know, I would rather live in a place where you can put an extra jumper on, like Earth, as a man, rather than come to a place where you're changing your fucking shit 3 times a day because you're fucking glossing piss worse than a maggot. Your heartbeat actually beats the same pace that you see a maggot move through its body from front to back to bottom, right? There is no volcanic tunnel, right? Or under earth passage, underground passage, right? That the gods couldn't think of in a smaller environment, sort of like a flea circus or a fucking, right? That man could do with his own main man affairs. Like saying, no, I'm very good at this. I'm very good at building the world's greatest infrastructure, but I can't get kids to pay for it at concessional price or some shit, right? Just like, you know, train fares and, you know, still sort of expecting dad or mum or nana, granddad, auntie, uncle, the sports coach or something to pay for everything. Sort of like through registry, you wait to get the most improved pat on the back the world's never got. You know? You walk through the same labyrinth tunnel, walk through the same miniature hellhole, right? Right? And find that light at the end of the tunnel, right? And yet, there's more benefit out of a one-way ticket in life, isn't there? Just go straight to the friggin' light. Just go straight to it, like the core. Go to the core. You think you're hardcore, but you're not really hardcore, man. You just find it really hard. Right? You find life really hard, like trying to get your penis sucked without charge. Fancy a chargeless device. Fancy something you shouldn't run at, like a crazy bull or a shithouse rat or something, right? Can you imagine just being nicked a little bit, like say, you know, nicked? You don't really worry too much. The world's gone through a lot. It's gone through all of the mildew, starting with, you know, that which made you, the shit that made you. So I'll just major in it and say the shit. Like the 18th verse of the first chapter of Genesis. Yeah. Like sort of like, you know, fucking algae, fungi, mushrooms. Shit. Like, you know? And the amphibious little liar, the amplified liar, built herself a story, right, about being a little mermaid and a father with a 3-pronged fork. There was no shiny light on the end of the fork that I avoided, like dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. The oceans really had no effect on the tide. Men are the ones that suffered PMS, right? Men are the ones that suffered PMS, right? Because unlike a fucking form of slow poached operation, you might be the one referred to as, right, the underground passage to the googie egg or the embryo. So it's really, really difficult to sort of assess it through many people's lives. You get paid once a week, you get paid once a month, you get paid once a fortnight. And yet all of the time surrounding the very moment your pay packet goes into your bank account at that exact time, whether afternoon, evening and night, like Harry Truman would say, right? Those hours every week, fortnight or month, depending when you got paid, amounts to the amount of time that any human being suffers PMS within a monthly period. You become a vicious loan shark, like, we're all the same, we're equal. We're all the same until your payday. Because you're really, really good at being able to be yourself with nothing. You know, there was no outer limit to reach, was there? There was no outer limit. You're all part of the inner circle. You're all part of the people that were brainwashed and given a Bible, holistically having it planned for you, you freaking slave maid, you free mate, right? Get out there and build the whole world before I whip you some damn more, you know? Before I come after you. Plan B, wear some shoes so you can run, because a big man might like to chase after you. Your mum, yeah, your bare bum in the shower, heads down, bottoms up. Nobody takes a washing machine like that. They usually get a wheel for a head, and that's usually about the place where the eyebrow ends. Right? Life is like a continual learning curve that grows its hair from a patent built from Galileo's, turning circle. Yeah, I just call it a turning circle. I find it amazing how it's still something to do with the wheel. You know? You don't sort of wheel through life, do you, like a worm or a maggot that tunnels itself? Well, a drill does that. Yeah, but that's like saying life is about having a lot of sick pleasure and dying, and that's it. How psychedelic could it really, really, truly be? No. I don't drill with a hand drill. I go over things repetitiously. So when it comes time to the actual game or the frame of light that people are supposed to look at some things, it's one thing to thank a dog for running through a tunnel and saving thousands of people or something. But no. So it'll come automatically, just like I seen it with my own eyes. I seen it with my own eyes. Well, an animal can have a lot of sick pleasure and die. You chuck pigs vegetables and they'll just fucking love you. Alright? You have to worry about going through pig shit to solve half of your problems with your eyeballs. You know, if I look through a pigsty for fucking the stench of human life that died to keep living or something. Pigs go through bone like butter, right? And for some people it melts in their mouth and not in their hand also. Right? So I'm not sure how you're supposed to take drills like that anywhere above the neck. It's like taking four spider legs and 4 shaved ones, right? And put it in your mouth and know that your fucking woman's right foot in it had something to do with it. Because, man and woman equals a kind of a spider, does it? It could be more like a wheel or something. It could be kind of like a spokesman. It's a bit like having a Nazi swastika on your fucking throat knowing you're just looking for a juggler. And so you sort of look at it like a parochial, a paradox, a paradigm, a new way of saying and suggesting things, and a new way of touching on stuff and pronunciating things. Yeah. So yes, the kettle goes on with the kettle it's on. Yeah. It's like saying, say toward is like saying you got sort of like 2 out of 4 in it. To say forward is like saying you sort of got 4 in it that can be duplicated just given the preceding narrative to patents and paradoxes. or, you know, whether church or state of mind, or whether some kind of solar ceramic kink in a camel's neck that's only fit to shit and piss on its head to ask it to fucking walk the desert. Once you stop and perform Bastion or something. Yeah. For some people it could be their mantra, right? To have to use a stirrup or a stick to put it in their mouth and then steer them to a piggy bank slit. Talk about sausage on bread. There's no fucking worse markup of sausage on bread in the world than people that take the concept, flatten it out like a photograph and show you what a pizza looks like with a very small sausage knob thinly sliced, right? This is pepperoni. You want some bread, sausage on bread, pepperoni, right? How you look at 7 legs with 4 shaved ones in its mouth. That to me looks a bit like man plus woman equals rock spider, but she's the one that makes the decision. She usually canters through every outcome. She canters like a Devonport exercise fit for, children without the hokey pokey. You can't get it to count to freaking 10. You can't get the kids to count to 13. How the hell are you supposed to get your grandchildren, to understand 7? Like, I'm trying to lead these people to water, not to bread. No, you want to lead them to bread and not to water. So you don't usually see those rainbow effects in a pizza dough or a bread dough. No, you'll see it in gas cylinders though. You'll see it in some kind of a biscuit. You'll see it in a wobble and bottle, of course. You'll see it in hands and legs on a paper plate, right? You will see a paper plate just discarded like all the Western world actually does, is somehow fail to utilise, it's rational tunnel, rational tunnel of thought, or claim their 21st century prototype moderators, I suppose, but I'm not sure where the bucks would stop with that. It's bad enough that people have to press lipstick on their face, right? They wouldn't be able to find traces of lipstick in people's carcinogenic cells because, of course, unless you do a specific test, you won't need to ever suggest that human to human transfer has some kind of electricity charge right in the middle of it, like some special glucose or substance or something. Right? It's like where all the love and magic occurs, sort of like, yeah. It's one thing to say I'm trying to shrink things, but in the meantime I've just been blowing up apples. I've been blowing up apples. It's a safe place to see little worms and shit crawl out of it. Little, stuff like that, little green worms. Some people go on with their partner and you have no idea what you've done for those people. It's out of you, so healing must be coming all over you. It's like that to sleep next to your partner, and when their little green worm crawls out of their ear, right, things do happen, right? Just like where the light is or something like that, right? It's no longer in them, it is out of them. That's why supposedly use a pillow, because the safest place for a fucking scared little creature like that would be to hide in the pillow first, right? That's why it's important to tuck your bed. It's like, don't let the bed bugs bite, right? But it's one thing to say there are cockroaches that leave blood and piss and shit all over your face and hands and eyes and things like that. I mean, it is hard enough to actually get a 24/7 care and support staff around the world other than councilmen or government. I mean, seriously, fancy them being able to do their job properly. Some of those guys are so lovely, right? They would chase after every minute detail that causes them stress with the friggin' axe. They would, right? Absolutely, an axe, the axe, mate, the axe, right? Yeah, rather than, remember there's spiders out there. There's spiders and stuff, I don't just crawl into bed with the light off because I trust this world that I live in. I had the door shut. I shut the door on all of my problems. Yeah. That's a bit like looking for a window in a grave. I was living in a tunnel with a windowless view, but I was concentrating on the daily news. Right. I follow this branch. This branch is merely over top of all of my problems. This is a parallel set of circumstances. I will not be seen as either orthodox or unorthodoxy. I myself am a psychiatrist. I myself am a hypocrite. I myself, in fact, am related to the great god Hippocrates. Right? There was no stairs of Socrates that could make me philosophize any harder. Right? For I have a new parallel set of circumstances. I have my psychiatric world at the greatest philosophical hellhole you could ever possibly build. Right? Yeah? Yeah, I have them in a psychedelic disgrace. I have them in a psychedelic disgrace. In fact, if you've seen people at the Pokey Lounge, I swear to God, a brand new 21st century god was called Pokey. Rather than mighty frozen food, right? Or Tony Pepperoni, right? What about Pokies? Hermides, man? Yeah? What about Plato, you reckon? Yeah? Pokies is the new philosophical hellhole. It's the new philosophical centre of excellence. Right? Yeah. It's a psychedelic disgrace. All of my problems reminds me of the birds like leaves on winterwood. Right? Singing hopeful songs on dismal days. Yeah, what'd you get up today? Oh, I fell off the jetway again. Yeah. Right? It's a bit like, a Mach 10 engine in reverse, isn't it? A Mach 10 engine in reverse, and you were never to understand the moderator or the mediator or something, or the 21st century type that's like, I exercise my restraint in everything underneath me. Right? I do, I exercise restraint. Right? Because I'm a bird that died of shock. I'm a bird that died of shock. You can't scream to God. If you were super optimistic, you'd know what optimism was, in opposed to people that can't do shit for themselves. Tell me a psychiatrist can do shit for themselves, and I'll show you a world that can't even fucking identify counterfeit claim, or a world dominated by counterfeit claim. Sort of like a counterfeit note. And super optimistic that there's only one of those 5 special little counterfeit notes out there since the mint factory had to look like America gone wrong, right? And to only have your active community in the little hole or place you built your Perspex cabinet, right? Or your special memorabilia, right? Have everybody else push you out the way and say, you're interrupting me, you're being incoherent, right? No, I'm sorry, it's just your sort of, ballpark, to be able to fly that note directly to the police force, because for $5 you can actually help that starving child fight crime or something. But $5 out of your business is like the manager that sort of upholds every note that goes to their grubby fingertips. Right? there's only 5 originals out there because all the originals have been actually sort of wiped out with new $5 notes. So at what stage could I say, ooh, I've got one of the lucky remains? The banks have been too busy out there trying to recall every last one of them without providing a 4-minute egg timer for panic merchants. You know what I mean? I will donate this $5 to the banking institution for the experts to decide for themselves as to whether or not this found itself in the beginning of the sands of time, right? Has been thrown out by 23 wines or 23 seconds or something. It was thrown out 23 seconds. It was thrown out 23 wines of the clock, mate. But the most important thing is to understand, like being sensitive and very offensive to those pre-existent conditions that created this world, like what? Truth and common sense? Or absolute concrete reality or concrete veracity? I mean, verily, 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 I say unto you. Jeez, can't have your cake and eat it too. If you said it was just 750, can't we make it 10 to 8? There was never one complete rotation of the wheel. I'm trying to keep this politically on tap. I'm trying to avoid the direction of policy, right? Inflation's got nothing to do with the puncher in my tyre. It's worth nothing but 40 anyway, right? Life starts at 40. Otherwise, I'm not sure what kind of a prime mover would need a 40-ounce pressure in its goddamn, in its tubes. It's very important I said tubes. I was referring to the tunnel. I was referring to the funnel. I was even referring to the outback funnel web that lives where birds and former, scientific, or agricultural work was being taken place. Sort of like, the chalk and the cheese met the bees and the birds for the first time talked to amongst peers. You know what it is to get the barbazi if you've ever smoked some Taiwanese pygmy. But you can't be in Lord Farquhar's castle with the ogre called Fiona at 43 that needs to take what's yours to a rightful authority. It was dead at point A, but it was alive at point B. Was a bit like, geez, I think Jesus Christ was like that too. But he never entered a dark place to be able to make the light shine out of you. The first place you show up to in hell is the place where you talk to the snake and the serpent. It's amazing you were found talking to a serpent and a snake because God doesn't live in hell. For you to be kicked out of a garden where angels were guarding your entrance back into that kingdom of God with a flaming sword, then it's one thing to say a firewall will take care of all of your shit, because there's nothing quite like an incinerator to burn off your 7-day build-up. Your shit in you will cut through 4 levels of cotton and thread, 4 sheets of it before we actually know you have to change your bed sheets every 7 days. You did bring the weather with you. You bought it from outside, and it could be in your eyeballs and it could be in the grits of your shoes. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse for welcoming the world around me to my science project. Right? Because what we tend to do is run straight to the problem. Yeah, the problem, the only props you've got in your shitty laboratory. So you find yourself taking a shitty rat and you put it in a bucket and you make it try to find the sides, and you call that adrenaline. A human might call it a fear-based attempt in which to claim the fucking thing is okay, pardon the language, but fuck your own. If you can get a rat drowned in a bucket of piss, that might need $20 million funded by a tax-paying country before any dipstick in the scientific field would actually back it up. I mean, fancy a bunch of people like cows showing up to a water truck looking for a handout from the man or the lady every day. Only to sort of suggest to it's just like a job available where you're scared of being hired and fired on the same day, or being tested with coronavirus, or being tested with the 3rd wave of an Ebola scare, or finding bat shit all over your compatible bow and mangoes, just rinsed under the tap and put in a box and sold for $25 shares, right? just whether you got the bloody mango from Proserpine, Queensland, or you know, in Ipswich, Bowen, mango compatible, or, you know, something, right? It's got nothing to do with $5 or something. Take a little bit of cream off the top and expose the wicks that lights the vigil. Jeez, it's pretty as bad as trying to get an ancient, old, classic, antiquitous, great beaut guy of a son, right? Sort of like thanking my grandfather for everything in life, right? To be able to, you know, what should we say? Get it to work, you know, without Spitfire Plus in its, you know, in its supercharged tank or something. Yeah. Now it's like antiquity versus the equitable sell one, sell a million things these days. If you could sell a million, you'd drill straight into it. If it was just one, you wouldn't know what to bloody well do with it, would you? Hey. Oh, but once we light it, there's nothing left. That's all we have. You wouldn't know how to make an everlasting candle if your life fucking depended on it, if you knew what wax was. A surfer would never have to go tubular cowabunga and get eaten by a fucking by a web cord or something. You know, a support jack or something. Have to put a plastic glove, you know, cut up a pair of gloves with some scissors and get 10 fucks worth of protection. You know, 10 teapots stort and shout with fucking Jack's head sticking out of the pot, knowing exactly where to stick it when you keep kids occupied in their cot. Right? And I'm sorry what it is to say, clown, you're a bloody clown. But it's just exactly sort of like the offensive side of it. You see, you can do it. It's not like collage from the inside out. At what stage do you line your stomach with plastic and glue? You'll never look at your sausage the same and say, but it doesn't come plastic. And you people eat it all the time. And of course, whales eat it all the time. Turtles eat it all the time. Dolphins die from the shit. You want a pat on the back and a pat on your shoulder? You'd want to pat your sandcastle. You want a pat on your plastic togs that only ends up in the drink. Sent back by Malaysia weighing about 8,000 tonnes next week. It's all sort of like, you know, what used to be outside in is now inside out. And that's how you sort of retain wax in the candle and know how to mould it and put it back together again. A bit like Gethsemane. They refer to Gethsemane in Israel like an oil press that extracted olives, but that's a poor man's hand in knowledge, unless you understand the vigil from that lamp of instruction. The lamp of the lamp is the reproof of instruction to Gethsemane. You've got to learn how to retain the wax every time. And if you're smart about it, you will roll it back into its original shape to retain its cylindrical, you know, just like you say a Bunsen burner requires a certain shape to it. You might say that a certain contour is only designed to analyse it under a certain scope. That's what it's like to see E. coli and salmonella with that on a surface where to the naked eye, unfortunately, you just didn't actually provide any, you know, dark drop in the background. Or take people's heads to a second, third, fourth sort of perspective to see it through the whole world's eyes rather than what? See through your own mistakes? That's why we require technology. That's why we actually look for technological advances outside of the control in which our life operates, because in fact, humans, few and far between, aren't built for anything new unless they become the original. You know? And if that's what it's like to see a psychedelic disgrace, right, then it's almost about as bad as asking people to desensitize the truth that our planet is being overtaken by a bunch of apes or something. You know, by a Darwinism that was never seen as the bipedal, science behind mankind. It could be more like the way in which a female was treated like a prostitute for years on end, fornicated under the consent of the king, to take their curvature of their spine on all fours, basically to an upright bipedal condition, and you might actually see it through the sands of time. Just like anabolics is anabolics, it falls out of a woman's butt, it gets pushed into a man's muscles, then the muscle relaxant helps the hemorrhoids fall out of their ass, and then men have to push it back through steroids, only to see that hunched curvature in Adolf Hitler's condition that was riddled with syphilis, right? And you know, riddled with pea and ham soup. And forget what people tell you after the war. Believe me, the evidence is where they won the war. Who the hell do you think had to win and sacrifice the war in the end? The loss. That's like knowing, you know, that you learn a lot within the first 5 minutes of any crime scene. You learn a lot between the first $5, you know, like 5% basis points of any 100, anything you decimate. There was no aftermath bullshit and turning troubleshooting exercises to conspiracies. And so the moral of this story anyway, thank you for sharing time, is like science, the utility of the brain. Sounds like every time he goes to talk to us, he's veering us off into some place without bullet pointing. And he's not giving us key words in which to follow and to bring it back quickly. And that's no different than the 7 legs with 4 shaved ones in your mouth. Right? How you're supposed to look at everything like a stopwatch, right? Right? If Hermans aren't living inside your head, or the Big Bang Theory isn't inside your head, well, you got to tell Penny to piss off. You can sort of floss. That's what string theory's about. You know, just wipe the bloody mirror down with the steam that comes from the hot shower head. Every time you're in the shower, just kindly use the cloth. It's an old, dirty, filthy cloth. I've had it in this workman's shed for the last 3 months. But as you can see, all the bench space is clear to not give the rats too much to munch on, or go right. Otherwise, they'll be looking for the end of a bucket or any fucking exit out of the damn house, unless you smell something dying in there. Yeah. And therefore, you might find it exactly where you expected it to be. What? Right at the freaking, you know, right in front of the damn, the place where that, you know, bzz, all that magic happens. Right? You know? Yeah. It was like the second stage. It was like a tunnel of love. It's very scary to jump from a building to building. It's very scary to jump from a carriage to a carriage while it's on flight, going forward, beating time underneath your feet, whatever, you know? Or to see the time, the same, an hour down the road, on the same line right across the guts of the planet, flush with the equator, only for sort of 12 minutes later in one direction of the sun and opposed to another, right? You know, it was 12 minutes already, regardless of what people put into your head with a clock or a goddamn paradox, a branch or something. Everything's got to be seen as that, isn't it? So, like conscious utility in that psychedelic realm, it's a bit like that with the bloody wire, bird on a wire. So the moral of that, what psychedelics is bird on a wire, isn't it? Why the hell would you walk up a rugged mountain terrain if you could just have a flying fox to get you from top to bottom? You say, I don't really want people to go into that jungle and assess the damn problems. Yeah? Spare a thought for the nation of Australia, and most importantly, the New South Wales, the state of New South Wales and the state of Queensland and its territories. Once you can figure out states have their territories, you'll understand the North, right? Right? You'll understand the gateway to Australia. You don't find Australia until you end up in Ipswich in Queensland. Once you come through Sydney, you're in Ipswich. Right? It's where grassroots integrity starts in rugby league, sort of like Fassifern and Fassifern. You know? Yeah. Never to suggest, Newcastle's too far out, the Sydney's too bloody close, just to say Sydney. But Fassifern, right? You understand the nursery or a word that actually even goes close to Fassi or Farsi. Sounds like a word that in ancient native Australian, they may not understand what I'm saying, but intelligent people do. The word Fassifern could relate to a place that means initiation grounds. Right? Yeah. Yeah, just like First Provincial Queensland, I suppose, which is called the state of New South Wales. Yeah. Sheep rule the bloody mountains, but, it must be difficult for a bloody ox or something to know its master, for you not to know them. So spare a thought of none of this domination bullshit. Or I was genitally mutilated, therefore you've got to give me everything you own, right? Or I'll make life a living hell for you, right? That sounds like, the last of the big spender's famous last words. It was too offensive and people were very sensitive to what you said and what you were thinking. Yeah? It's one thing to say the woman put the foot in it, and it's one thing to say the only way to heal a puncture in a tyre is to wedge someone's ankle on it on the tube puncture, the puncture of the tube, or to say that jumping from a building to building is scary. Nothing actually stops you going through a wall. The only thing that stops you going through the wall is the wall itself. And that's what it's like to look after anything and keep it intact, just like your partnerships. Otherwise, you would have never fell out of sequence or love with it, like any sequence of return. Had nothing to do with following a branch of knowledge or a branch of study, like the linear graphs that we put in front of anybody, and, keeping it flush with the equilateral decisions in which we make from left to right or right to left. If it was we had to bloody concentrate on what you're doing from top left to bottom right, you'd never tell a goat to, back away from an intravenous, right? The goat's got a mouth, just keep the intravenous away from the mouth, right? Yeah, figure that out. If you contravene your own mouth and contradict your own laws, right? You need to tell us this, you need to do this, right? No. Maybe we'll try it outside, or get the fuck out, or get out. Yeah? Fancy if a goat said, right, I only fetch your soap like the dog fetches the frisbee, but don't tell me what you need to do for me. You'd forget which one's whose. Right? Right? You know why the goat goes after the soap and not the soup? To go after soup doesn't make sense. But a frisbee looks like half of the prenuptial agreement. Right? You say it's half or nothing. Well, a goat might just want a picture taken shying away from a cake of soap or something. Right? Whereas a dog, if you went to pat it, just like your damn habits, it would probably get all timid and start pissing itself. And they actually tend to piss themselves everywhere. They can get excited and piss. The mobble wankers need to hold their bladder with whatever they talk about. That's what it's like to be born part of a slab, right? Born of one of many to a slab, right? Once your head's too big to be able to have your own teat, right? It's time to stop treating the world like that. To extract whatever's in it, you only put in something if you're only supposed to cipher out what's in it. If that relates to, combustion ovens, right? Or combustion chambers, and the only thing that stops you going through the wall is the wall itself, then nothing stops you putting a wire inside of a bubble which lives inside of a valve. If all the valve was a piston inside of a valve, Fancy something inside the actual piston shuddering up and down faster than what was actually happening in the piston itself. All you'd need is an ability to funnel it or blow it out of its ass, but you don't need that when you're into combustion. This is my labyrinth, and you'd have to force someone to push the button. Bird on a wire. God. Bird on a wire. Let me interrupt this earthly news bulletin with a special announcement. Right? We here at the Debt Collection Corporation are a homosexual mob who stem from a homosexual life form. Right? We only ever look for retirement. To retire is no different than not going any more further, right, with your responsibilities. You will change the topic. You'll go do something stupid and silly. Your mother doesn't want its son. Its mother doesn't want its son or daughter in the house. Its mother is going through changes. It combs its hair a certain way. It plays with the Dalmatian a different way, right? It actually has someone inside there that's paying rent in another way than the money, right? It's providing a service, right? Right? Some people have a Monsignor, other people have a butler, but nobody has Jack the Ripper, right? Nobody actually has a crematorium scorcher. Everybody's got an amphibian, an amplified fibber that can't turn the thing up. Life is a hell of a lot about shaping itself out of sounds. Who said it was going to bloody be easy? While it takes hold of you. I hear that my partner's just got problems. I hear your partner's got problems because you're too busy trying to change it. Oh, but if they've got a better shot in life than me, then why don't they do it? And that got me thinking. Just like bird on a wire. You know, all of your problems sort of used to be outside in. Now you do it from the inside out, collage or not, plastic, glue. Yeah, balloons next time, whether you're a cabbage patch or a dag of a child or something, a dag of an adult at 45 or something, in a supermarket aisle with a balloon in its hand, and the other hand used for more, you know, like more select, you know, forms of dementia praecox rehabilitation, you know? Yeah. Who the hell asks an Alzheimer's patient about weight loss in the first place? I'm going to take off with this like the way in which the world around me deserves a pat. I'm going to take off with this around me like the way in which you ought to appreciate how I steer my own mouth into an end-of-year registration, right? Of how much of this crap I should have boiled off like the geezer I supposedly was, right? You're supposed to boil sausages. They just, you know, at what stage do you balloon up too early and eat too many condoms in life? Until you didn't assess it for the life of you, it's like, I'm sorry. You know, without you being a little bit, you know, sensitive to the way the small goods handler, you know, provides its product by the millions, the ambiguous millions, mind you, right? It's got to provide you something that in the, you know, hopefully you won't actually poison yourself, or, you know, it's got to be at a safe level. It's packaging. Otherwise, if you swallow it, you might need to seek a poisons hotline number. You don't need a poisons hotline number if you've got a partner in life to die at your beckoning call. Like, your only ambition in life might be to make it to the backyard with whatever friend you've got left, tunnel or flea circus or whatever, with a mate that actually is, you know, is admired or appreciated by you watching it down a sausage on bread, you know? And that's the truth. You probably got so much of it that sort of disintegrated in your body. It created one little offset, no different than what an ibuprofen agent would actually do in a headache tablet, just to slit a little minor blood vessel in your body to assume that whatever headache's going on is a build-up of blood or something, like a blood clot artery or something. Help to offset the flow of it. As the plastic builds up there, Black Death plague starts to grow itself from the inside out. You were never really giving birth to something that was kicking you in the stomach weeks before it did. No? The carcinogenic factors were starting to kick in, right? And that electricity, that magic or something that, you know, was starting to hear your baby scream was actually the knocks too. You know? The knocks were a bit like the baby screaming. You ever seen, like, go to a scientific lab and you put your finger on the outside of one of those spheres? You didn't think it was static in the clothes that you wear into bed or something, or that the clothes you wear relates to man-cow disease, or it doesn't have to be man-cow. It could just be a bloody mad time, you know, until somebody can change your sopping clothes or something. It might have a great effect on your teeth, just like your pillowcase, that if you don't change that after 18 months or 2 years, you'll start to see the result of it, you know? An accumulation of dust mite, like all we do is open our fucking mouth. Why don't you just just sit down and try to solve Stephen Hawking's problems or something? You might live longer. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the Black Death starts to grow in you, and you'll just trigger it with encephalitis or something. You know, the apple never falls too far from the tree, but the carrot never falls too far from the damn diamond. And so better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without one. If a diamond reflects and doesn't shine, I'm sure that a pebble without a nice little frock top or a tutu, right, nice little tiara, right, you know, would present the same illustration if a few dingoes were looking down the tunnel and asked the mole to come pop its fucking head out. You know, sort of be closer to home where most accidents happen, but of course the ripest fruit travels the furthest in the end. Sort of like to the outer edge of the limits, that only see it sort of growing on the inside of you now rather than the outside. Because whatever incorporates itself in has to be part of this yellow submarine we live in. Sorry, the green limousine that swim in your trousers, or everything that targets you under the belt, only to, you know, to cut it off and have more of, you know, heartstrings attachment. Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know exactly what I'm saying. You know? If you put your foot in it, I'm sorry. You put your foot in it, I'm sorry. No, this is a fairy floss machine. It's a fairy floss machine. I just got to put it on a stick, you know? I've got to put it on a stick and put it where my mouth is. It's not that life's really hardcore, is it, man? You just find it so hard to escape fairy floss. You find it hard to escape your left leg that you married to escape your right leg that you carried. You know, your left leg's Ted and your right leg's Fred. How the hell are you supposed to get away from Freddie? Unless Teddy has a bong with you or something, or Teddy stars with Mark Wahlberg. You know? Being one of those people that's allowed to do it, but it's not allowed for you to do it because you're a professor of arts. You're not really a professor of arts. I know exactly what trouble you're going through, young man, just like Dr. Emmett Brown said, I'm sorry, Copernicus. They called it Einstein, yeah. You know, the lab's an absolute mess, you know. This is an alternative obscure timeline. It's a bird of a wire, right? You know, people learn to live life as they should. You know, they're at peace with nature's ways. Yeah, here we go. Ooh, you are as natural as the light, the night, the light, the night. And all that springs from you is good. Yeah. And the children born beneath your light are like the birds on Winterwood. Yeah. Isn't that true? Yeah. Like say you rake back the evidence, and what do you come up with? Right? You come up with a portal, a hole, a smartphone technology dominated by shit-nit operators, social media, but don't let the professor be at work. It's confusing enough. Apart from the fact that there was no year called 2020 that made words like coronavirus and COVID-19 so fat that Facebook couldn't contain it in a cloud. But from the inside out, now be it the outside in, you ever had a change of heart? You know? Have an outward change of direction? Yeah? What about an outward change of direction resulting in an inner change of heart, or an inner change of direction because you had a different heart that, you know, steered itself in the right, directions, like saying, like an alternative life, it's an incline, love takes you off course, but if it brings you back on track, you were always in love. Oh yeah, roads ain't roads, but that's because that's where the road actually is. Most roads have something on it that is mysterious and unidentified. If it actually was known to be to be unique or residential, right, or to be stipulated, should I say, it would be called street, wouldn't it? It'd be called a street. Yeah, roads ain't roads until you find the bypass, huh? If it was a shortcut and it was just the way, it was just the way, but everyone went all for the ambiguous millions. Yeah, it's one thing to say you're unique, you're one in a million because you were born full breech with your left leg. I bet when you came out, you did one of two things. Either you flew straight to a roof and slept upside down and never had to ask to be excused from your family, in opposed to sort of jump, sharp on a surfboard, a cloud or a slippery dip or something, turn around, bite the numb bitch on the snatch, ruggle up past the stomach, look her in the eyeballs and say, I've been here before, bitch. And I only called her bitch because I didn't know her name at that stage. Most people have to be born head first, which is like looking into their adversary's eyes to see which one came out second best. Right? Always sit up and stare it in the face like it's got nightmares about the freaking bitch. And it has to be excused for everything before it turns its bloody back to it. No different than opening up your spread legs that should have been closed because you had a new man in your life. That's what it's like when you meet Jesus. You don't have to go to the other side, right? Got a new man in your life, you're able to keep your legs closed. Your shoulders don't have to touch. It's got nothing to do with Charles Darwin escaping his own country for 30 years to prove that sweet son of a bitch was pretty much right. I mean, it's one thing to say you're a mammal, man. You're not a chimp. You're not an ape. You're not a dog. You're not a dog. No, you're not a horse. No, you're not a whale. Geez, you're a bitch of a thing. You are not any one of those things, right? You are a mammal. Don't forget that. It's one thing. Look, I can't do anything in this life without myself. Yeah, it's hard enough to perform a litmus test on people before they provide a backdrop. The $64,000 question was always the 1,000, not the million. People try to get cute and call it some other number. It was forever a $64,000 question. It was never the $64 million question, right? 64,000 is like a threshold of what people should be paid per year, Yeah. Really, in a world like this, it's like take it as you please, pay 25,000 units of currency in some country and only get a can of Coke or something out of it because the note says 25,000. But if you paid $10 for something, you would have paid 1,000 of something. You paid 1,000 of yours. What do they want for the plate of food and the drink? What do they want? Did you say want or want? Oh, they wanted 50,000 won for a plate of food and a drink or two. They're so mean. I can't figure it out. Should we get out of this awful hell of a place? Yes. It was not Gangnam style. It was broken condom style. Yes. It tail shafted by a bitch of a thing, only fit for a Mack truck, a Mack 10 engine in reverse. I broke the sound barrier. I was nosediving into something that was not fit for a turtle or a dolphin to kill itself. But no. I am a space capsule. I am an acupunctured space capsule. It's one thing, you can't burn goddamn plastic to get rid of it. No. I have to provide you a safe option so that you don't get poisoned by it. I know we've got a special acid in our stomach that breaks that down. That's fine. Oh, you've got a special acid. Well, the moment you people show up with a special acid, right, can you please approach the Department of Defense immediately and leave them 1,500 illegal flyers on a friggin' a backstreet rotary press until the thought of something remotely even close and imaginable shows up to their senses to be able to get them starting the process once again? of John Newton observing a cat with a ball of string before he comes up with a parasite with a remote control attachment and buttons that bleed, right? Or 4 full condoms with knots in it parked at your fat mother supermarket regardless of what your limited community restrictions are today. Yes. Check me out while I'm on board my Beyonce Knowles. Check me out while I'm on board my Mercedes Benz. Check me out while I'm on board my Mitsubishi tits. Right? We all know who's got the best pistons. Right? So, yeah, of course. A hairy little baby with a sequin cock that works in a Californian bridesmaid position. She's not a marriage celebrant or a social escort. She's called Mamacita. I dead-latched her. I dead-latched Mamacita. You know that hairy people always make the best rhubarb pie and cottage cheese. I'm not into that. I just want to turn the power off on this bitch, take the plug out the point, and leave a fret like a defrosted freezer. Yeah. So that the shorter I reduce the frets to where the string starts or where it touches the outer limits, creates that vibration, right, and has a high-pitched magnitude, right, that doesn't look at light as something that pierces through your brain only to kill it, right? No, but to make sure that sleep time is strictly observed, just like afternoon chores, afternoon tea or something. It must be strictly observed because, like bird on a wire, you weren't as hot today as a defrosted freezer, but the place was stinking up and I could see water dribbling down your head. Why don't you take a 50-minute break, right? Yeah, and go have a fag, a brain fag. The only thing that stops you going through your brain is the brain itself, right? Until you find a light, right? Like, I know that you got to, waltzing with a stick somehow. And, once a jolly swagman can't buy a stick of a thing. Right? Right? Fancy having to be excused for, treating a teapot the way that I used it in contempt in an offensive way towards babies cut from the same cot. I nearly said clot. Right? As if, like, God's wife itself was ibuprofen, or the one that should have been actually supplied to Adam. Right? The one before hydrogen was number one in your life, and atom was something that God was happy to see for the first time. Beautiful atom. Hydrogen, no dragon. No dragon, no dragon. Hydrogen, yeah, the baby's is perfect. My beautiful baby boy Atom. It's so good to see you today. Oh, yeah, so I miss you, hydrogen. Yeah, I miss you today. Yeah. Oh, well, what do you want to do today? Oh, there's some amazing animals and creatures and fish and stuff across the other side of the big lake that we're here today. I haven't maimed them yet. I haven't ripped them apart. You want to come see? Oh, that'd be great, Adam. Oh, it's a long hike. You don't mind? No, let's go. Let's split. Yeah. You split an ice cream, and supposedly it's got nothing to do with life outweighing the political quote that Forrest Gump provided the great philosophers of the world today. You didn't eat enough chocolate before you reached Jenny's house, right, to know that that she's your girl, right? Life is like a barrel of Scotch finger biscuits, right? There better be one left, right? And that's what it's like to say you ain't got a spare tyre, let alone a spare breath, but only if you're sparing. If you can really spare something that I've never had at this specific time. Oh, yeah. Tell me your car broke down and I'm a truck driver. Yep. Hitchhiking the Psychadelic, the super information highway to play Mortal Kombat with a friend in Vietnam. Only because you got the most powerful dish in the world. I'm referring to them, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because they're awesome. They squat better than a bung does with 2 sticks and make fire. Yeah. And I said bung because that's what a fucking Vietnamese squatocracy would is, a bit like a bung thing, Yeah. Yeah, they know what, they like that kind of talk. They smile. They're funny. You must think they're a she-male or something. A kind of a Darwin thought or something. I don't know. Yeah, Quasimodo. Yeah. To share like one. There's like There better be one left, because like it's got to be, it's like a biscuit barrel. It's got to be able to, you know, yeah. A Bunsen burner works the same, you know. Yeah. My beautiful baby boy, he's got so much liquid in his mouth, it must be hard for him to gargle. Yeah. 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 And, you know, any decent black fella would be like, I don't get into that stuff. I got a gas cylinder lighter these days, bro. What are you, stupid? Yeah. Yeah. You want me to buy you one? Yeah. You can take it for yourself, you know, whether you're going to settle for, rather than leave me alone, you're just going to take that and settle. You're going to settle or what, you know? Yeah. You know? Right, I'm busy. Like, you want me to buy you a lighter or what? Come on, man, I got minutes to get to find my Jun daddy, mate. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Who's that? Jun Dahl. Yeah, June Dahl. Yeah. Yeah. Don't you know the Dahl family? Yeah, never use the Lord's name in vain. Bird on a wire. No way. Yeah. Everything's a political shampoo bottle with arms and feet on its face. I'll just treat its entire face like something that needs to be saved to serve my food on. Because it might be that sometime later on in life, I might have to wipe my ass with it. And that's the best time during these days to be able to give an alligator snout a break and fucking wash it off in the lake. You know, keep it grouse, man. Keep the alligator grouse. Sort of like make Australia grouse again. You know, yeah. I said Gred, you know, I nearly talked about regretful. Like its name, you know, she had a brother named Handful. You know, my name is Regretful, and my name is Handful. You know, and together, what great big ears you have. Yeah, what great big teeth you have. And they end up kidnap you, chuck you in a cauldron, and the woman becomes Matrix. Yeah. Right? He's talking about chopping you the fuck up for pigeon food or cauldron stew pot ingredients, just like the state Mars was left in before it whistled you to the park, or whistled you to a mutual place where the light is just out there, and it's not really. It's just like the story that showed up from the previous life that the woman put you under a trance on. But women will argue with that as if, like, you know, embryos can make babies these days without male sperm. Sort of like completely wiping mankind out of the picture. What a bitch. You say, you know, no, don't call her bitch, you may call her ma'am. Ma'am, well, can't we call you mammal? Meet you halfway? You know, I know what malpractice is. I'm an expert in malpractice and maladministration, and you look a bit like something hard to detect, like a sign of, like a grain of rice. You look something like hard to detect, like the crumb of a zested orange meringue pie, even if the meringue pie had set hard and escaped Down syndrome. It tightened up your skin and senses and gave you a more definite mistake maker. Very clumsy, right? And likes to chase en blonde things because it doesn't want its grass and dirt to bruise too hard. It's trying to sell its property. Thank you, you've been great. Yes. Yeah, thanks a lot for saving my property. Yeah, thanks a lot for all of the electrons in your brain that amass more than the stars in all the multiverses. You know, I can't find it. I know cats have more bloody brains and electrons than what dogs do, but that's got nothing to do with them having the speed and reflexes of a cat, or nothing with them having the speed and reflexes of a bloody mongrel, mate. Yes. And if that's psychedelic, then in a nutshell, I utilised my conscious. I was very sensitive. You might need a certain type of cream. You might need a certain kind of box to tick or something. It must be hard being able to put ticks or parasites to a wet cardboard box kept so peculiarly clean in the streets, as it's, fenced and parametered by, the terrestrial bipedal unco wobble and fuckstick of a thing that it was, reduced, to its image, be it deduced from its usage. Yeah, someone says, are you okay? You say, no, did you say ruach in Hebrew or something? Ruach in Hebrew? Yeah. I didn't know I was supposed to be looking for ruach, you know? Yeah. Until the walkies come along and it's like, oh yeah, that's just a fucking hairy bitch in a skirt called Teen Wolf. That's just a hairy bitch in a skirt called Patrick Bateman. I got a sick fascination with this fucking, yeah? Where's your Confederate flag for your headband, you eggplant? Right? You know? I've got to be able to identify it through a colour coding chart, because that's the first thing we learn in preschool and tell people to open up about. Remember, always tell the truth. I want a litmus test. Sometimes we get limpsis before thinking of it. We got a joystick attached to our spine, like people sort of forcing us to get it done. Like Down syndrome's got nothing to do with that chromosome missing that needs to go bzzz and create all that magic. Two hearts living in just one mind, together forever till the end of time. But the transfer of energy from right to left to right is like saying this life is not fit to do backflips when everybody else can't do it. Somebody's liable to call the hospital because it might just be that their imagination and their insight be able to see the results of the revelation for themselves, sort of like shed light or creative illustration, provide it for the first time to the courts, let there be light, right? You might break your neck. Should I call your nana? Should I call your bloody partner or the ambulance? Or call a lawyer? Write to the United Nations and say that one of our most experienced parliamentarians is not fit for a free flight. You got to be kidding me. The dickhead that would want to be so quick to walk up to a road that leads to all nothings, all roads lead to the something, all roads lead to the something, all roads lead to the psychedelic something, all roads lead to, the froth of a mangrove roadkill, all bloody roads lead to the alfalfa kicked off my special sandwich. All roads lead to the cream of the crop, right? All roads lead to a man's hairpiece that looks like damn roadkill, right? Right? All roads lead, right, to a homosexual bald-headed son with the name Nancy Cartwright to block holes in nuclear power plants only to scoff Duff beer and call itself Eliza Minnelli lookalike, even in the Johnny Depp classic Edward Scissorhands, right? Right? Fit for an underground world where, by the ambiguous millions, right, people actually see some remarkable dance with destiny or dance with danger, like a trick or something for the first time, as something that before was treated with so much contempt and ridicule and mockery, even at the round tables, to become, oh my God, something more than just possible. Something more than just possible. Nobody before them had actually attempted that before I even heard that person be the only person on earth that I sent to the nut house. Oh yes, please, emergency. My mum is stuck in a flood water. She's absolutely dying. Where exactly is she located, young man? She's in the middle of the street, 700 metres above sea level. That's impossible. Just wait for a few minutes for the gas to clear. She'll be right. No, she's not okay. And now there's a car ripping past Repco on the main street. Get a bloody policeman out there and pick this freaking insane mental kid up, please. Look, we've got to take all of our inquiries seriously. Just bloody double check. Sarge, yeah? You might want to let these prisoners out of the bloody watch house cell at the moment. Why is that? We've got a bit of a problem. What's that? Oh, we got about 23 seconds before 10 to 8. Yes. Did you say about 23 seconds before we attend to an ape? And I meant we've got 23 lifetimes before we catch up with Alexander the Pope's nostril flares. Yeah. Yeah, you know women have hair in their nostrils. You know people make a special kind of gravy to be able to breastfeed their babies, right? It's about as easy as taking candy from them, isn't it? Right? What could be more impertinent than that to somebody that studies a branch of medicine, in opposed to somebody that makes you relax, take it in zest, take it in earnest. Metamucil is not gelatin. Influenza A and influenza B from a little green faggot is just as important as anybody trying to pull the Woolworth over my eyes. Ain't that right, Red Man? Yeah, you know Red Man, the one with the claws and horns. You ever been eaten and killed by one of those things before? Yeah? Too busy casting mercury readings, are we? For the dial, the system's dial, are you? Yeah? You ever been chased by a miniature with claws and horns before? You want to? Yeah, you want to? Yeah? Yeah, you want to? Imagine a cartoon with little mermaids in its arms. Yeah, she would want to do, yeah, she would want to, you know, be with him without charge. Yeah, she would want to. Yeah, she would want to. Yeah, she would want to. Must be difficult to be able to say, no matter how I get this thing right, I can't sort of put my face to the part that adds up with my head. There's a Bermuda Triangle that is not present on the, you know, in the Atlantic. It has to be somewhere else. Yeah. It's a bit like the Sunshine States. It's a bit like the tropics, I suppose. There's a little triangle out there in the Atlantic. It must be something from California to Philippines to Australia. Something like that. Yeah. You want weather, don't you worry about that. Yeah. It's all cyclonic systems regardless, but I can't seem to touch on it. Because what kind of a bird would negotiate a friggin' cyclonic system, man? To find one notch bigger than the last talent scored on the board, you know? I'm looking for 19,999 leagues under the cuckoo's nest, right? To talk the way you do about Vern Jules is so disrespectful, right? Right? That I wouldn't be seen fit with you with a paper bag over my fucking head and a 10-foot pole. No, I would be seen as a person out there, wouldn't you? With a broken vacuum waving it at a Category 7 system off the charts with speeds of 455 kilometres per hour, right, in the Pacific Ocean, right, darting straight for New Caledonia or something like that, right? And it's just getting started, you bitches. Right, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know, the best time to get out there and practice your T-serve like Hannah Manlakova, right? Or practice your Canadian asylum-seeking campaigns like Vietnam, maybe. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean Canada. I probably meant North America, all of it. No, but it was a casualty of war, American casualty of war that showed up back up to Australia in nothing but clothes. He was studying the enemy and the Australian died, did it? Yes, because you certainly have a friend down under, don't you? Remind you again, we all got a friend down under. Even if it's 10 feet past the original, 6. If you've got a step ladder, it's good to have a groundsman to do stuff like that. Now, it's good for yourself to be like that. You need to put scum in the hole while you throw defence papers in front of it and process about 24 to 36 as quickly as possible. Could take a day, every week, every month, every year, every decade, and every century, and every millennium. Right? Or millennium. Millennial. Millennium means 2, idiot. It takes 2 to tango. Millennial, like yo. Like an IOR. Australia can't even spell nuclear. They spell it like a musical lyric or something. They can't even be trusted to build a canoe. Australia just wants the once a jolly spagman bullshit, once upon a time and they all lived happily ever after. It was described by a Danish or a Spanish woman as a black object or something. And it never died in the arse until it was a phased out fascist regime that created Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. You just pour cooking oil on them or something like that and wait for the gas to clear, yeah? I found the third eye, but it's got nothing to do with a triangle. I don't turn circles to triangles. It's a difficult thing enough to be in hell with seized nuts bouncing around for 2 or 3 months. It's like that when you first enter jail, no matter how long your stint is or how you spell jail. Jail is either, hope you're okay because you're only going to end up in jail anyway, right? So you say, you say, roo shoo, mate, roo shoo, mate, roo shoo, only to find people, at your beckoning call, keeping you arrested and on chains and tenterhooks like bloody people. Uru, mate, uru. It's like asking the bloody person to come back. My boomerang won't come back. You find Rushu at the northernmost part of China entering into the mysterious border of Mongolia. I don't think you're going to come back. I don't even want to talk about this. Well, what greater people to get information from than from the original Mongolians themselves? Right? I did not, I was not talking about, staphylococcal or anything like that Westerners bring to the world like encephalitis before they start touching light on the subject. Can I have a light? Look, my ship's all cannon shot this fucker, and I need some warmth and health. I need some local knowledge. I can't give you a bloody emu shield until you first know how to make a phone call or something, right? Yeah. A phone call who? To your parents, because it's going to take a while to get you back to where you came from, right? I've dealt with mongoloids before, and you look a bit like a Caucasoid, like an iron board backside, straight up and straight down, right? I've already dealt with you in the plains, right? I'd have to wipe your brain before you fly your plane. Who the hell wants to take a photograph and look like a pirate? You wouldn't blend in round here, migrant, right? You look like a bloody Somalian with a McDonald's voucher, screaming through the Ethiopian desert, wanting to cash it in for money. Sort of like tax on a photograph that keeps the media pumping, or the column that opens and folds like an everlasting packet of fucking split end problems. In breaking news, we have duplicate stress fractures to at least 17 pubic hairs, which was caused by excessive masturbation, and the victim has now vowed to be an advocate of sex coupling, saying, I quote, the agony of self-inflicted harm has really changed my perspective about safe sex. Final Destination said a different thing, though. The agony of self-inflicted harm really changed my position about driving the fucking thing off a crash cliff and chasing after it and stomping it into the dirt and then bouncing off like a real googie egg. I've got a vertical leap as it is. I'll bloody, stomp you into your pillow on your bunk, Yeah. I'll jump out the window like a real artist. Yeah. Why? Well, you're an easy geometry. You're just straight up and straight down. All right? Been there, done that. You probably couldn't even crawl out of a bin if I chucked you in one. You wouldn't cut out of an advertising billboard as to see. Trying to get you back to your health before I send you back to your place. Right? You wouldn't escape a bloody billboard advertising space even if you stole it or bought it off somebody else just to hide the cut remains of your worth no more than pigeon food, to help bloody praying mantises familiarise with any material before they go on to take on the master but knows better than you do. Right? Yeah. Even though a praying mantis learns from a bird 10 times its size usually, pigeons ain't one of them. Right? But it can be for anybody with a brand new dustpan or a Ouija board to figure it out, right? I found this in the bloody dust of the plains. Can you get this shit out of my house? Yeah, right? So it's like that. Oh yeah, it just follows itself in a 360 pattern, right? It follows itself in a 360 pattern because if it caused, Right? It meant that it just stuck its foot in it like your woman's foot in a bucket, right, to keep the tubes, intact. Fancy if even YouTube or the blue tube in a goddamn television, as ancient and as old as it was forever like a half turnpipe, Yep. And learn to infuse everything without having to, sort of rely on all this dark space and crap like that. Oh yeah, circuits of time, but no circuits of time unless a praying mantis or a bloody ant had found it first, Yeah. Fancy a lap dance from something that's not designed to be on your lap. It's like, oh no, you were dead. This ain't real. Yeah, Bruce Lee in a wheelchair's real. But what's more real is when you see someone get out of their wheelchair and come back with great white shark style. That's like 23rd Dan. 23rd Dan. Had to go through cockroach Dan at 17th level before it got out of its damn terrible condition of being an absolute monster. Right? Knowledge passed from father to son. Right? It saw Trey Kennard break its back in on a Honda. Right? And he survived. The same, Bruce Lee survived, but not the knowledge that was passed from father to son. Right? Genetics have a lot to do with being able to defeat paraplegia all by yourself. Yeah, you never leave your house because you think your car's possessed, yeah? You don't want to run some mad pricks over in their ranks, their files and their dispositions. There are many like it, but this crap is mine. I'm just sitting in the goddamn palm trees here at Anaheim Round 1 waiting for the dogs to be released. Kawasaki will still find trace of your mother in the dried R-sample swipes of Ryan Villapotto's Monster Drink. Even if you never won the lotto, that you had to go see a shrink. Your supplementary never came up, not even a number, so you gave birth to your brother Robbo. With all that tackle and junk in the front of his forehead that he won't even let you borrow tomorrow to go, fucking F something. Yeah. No, I mean F something like that's a, flunk something. That's what I mean. Right? Yeah. You say fluke something. Oh, yeah, fluke. I couldn't imagine lime cordial any worse. Right? There's sort of like pyrethrin and algae and crap in it with extra little bits of flukes that are so microscopic. I didn't want to tell you at first. Right? But it's a bit like that with, with the linen. These are just little spots. It's RSPCA approved. It blows itself out to be a red spot special that get themselves in before they receive the daily news. Spirochetes are to be avoided at all times. Like a big fat slogan written in semi-italics. Thunder is what's more important than the lightning, thank you very much. Right? And so therefore I want my dear children to make a sound so I know that they're alive rather than effing something, right? Right? So therefore I put my air conditioner on before the shampoo so I can avoid the split end drama of having to get a fierce debate happening all over the world about whether or not flour is required to crisp chicken correctly. I know it must be horrific for people to wish to be whacked in the face to feel feelings in life. You know what I mean? Never to say I'm not grateful for this life that I was given. I just usually pinch myself to make sure that I'm alive. Sparingly enough. Life is a slippery dip. Life is a half pipe. Right? Life is a push tase nata. For others, it's a cutlet tastard. And for other people, it could be a dastard instead of a bastard. Yeah? Others could be sodally Toba before November ends. Right? It could be a unique way in putting one foot before the other, before it doesn't come back. It's sort of like, wishing them well, as opposed to a valedictory message that never left the schizophrenic output of a duck that just wants to stay clean. Must be difficult to split the seams and then bump them like, don't start me up, because I'm not the Rolling Stone, but I guess don't. Yeah, with the little friends from the gauntlet, yeah, then I pass around back to B again. I can make you famous like Amos. See, made the last punk when I put my gat up his anus. Hear me? Growl. Wow. I got the kick the ow, wow. It goes forever, like psychedelic crowd. I beat the trooper, the 40 below trooper. Scoop Mary Lou, takes a woman out looper. You ever dropped your hula hoop and played it any cooler? Then the ultimate condition of having to, thanks mum, but I've been here before. Right? Yeah. It's the only way you can look into Godzilla's eyeballs after you slam, after you're slamming. Tell him you'll be at your mama's house, I don't care. You don't tell Jack in the Box, right, to show up on an appointment, even paid or via Fatagram. You know what I mean? I wind this up, it's just a session. It's a cyclonic system. 360 degrees on the microphone. Yeah, like a roll of toilet paper. But I don't suppose I'm supposed to hold on to it. No. You usually drill with a hand drill, don't you? You usually mallet all things into a creek bed and just see it through whenever the water allows you a mirror image. Whenever allows you relying on a plough. It's like, don't look up and through a plough. Look down and keep your friggin' eyes to the ground. You know what it's like when you take G-O-D out of, G-R-O-U-N-D. Right? You gotta run it. Right? Don't run from the God or something. Right? Not because it's like the old saying, look, don't feed the birds, otherwise, or we'll feed you. I never saw a bird in the world have any say or take on your breakfast habits. Yes. All things natural, starting with wild honey. Yeah. I don't usually take bubbles seriously. I just look at rice like a sick joke. Right. I do, because I've got to wait for the powder to produce something greater than the same shit, but a different laxative, I suppose. Some people are born out of the same stew pot. Right? Some people fell out of a bloody rooftop when they pulled the hatchet. Some people fell out of a reject box when they pulled the hatchet from the roof. For what some people call Little Stewie, they give it a nickname, call it Stewart. So it's pretty appropriate. You know what I mean? Yeah. My name is Regretful and my name is Handful. Together, right, we make flare build up. Yeah. We make flare build up. Right? You'll be wrong no matter what you say. A dookin is coming. A dookin. Right? Right? Enough to want to sink your chops into it. It sounds harsh. How do you sink your chops into something if you're only designed to stick your tongue in it first? It's like knowing where your tonsils is before they pull the appendix out of the roof of your mouth. I knew those doctors were up to something. And Albert Einstein, you're full of shit. You're so full of shit, at least half of what you said was shit, but when I split it down the middle and fold it together properly, right? Oh, you were telling the truth, I just had to see it relatively. Yes, this life is like a pie, but not your bloody pie. My Scottish pies are the best. I got it from a Mexican, called me Dirty Sanchez, with a big mustache, right? It's a savoury dish with heaps of pie in it. I can't go anywhere, mate. It's just wholesome. I can't pie. Right? When someone says pied piper, they meant that the piper pied, mate. It ain't nothing. It was pied before you ever knew what a piper was. The pied piper is like saying, you really You really fucking rubbed it a new one, didn't you? Right? The only way that a person could make sense of a John Hopewadi thumb up your butt is knowing you're supposed to hold on to anything with two hands, so he's the only person in the world that deserves to see things with three. If a man wants to eat a Dagwood dog for an exhibition, right, that can be hard to do, like diss tracks in your ass you've never removed. Or knowing that Goro only had bloody two arms, but you're so bloody dizzy from being punch drunk, you see three of them, grab the one in the middle. Yeah, right? And then treat it like a dog the same way you feed bark to it. Fancy if bark had the answer to of how a dog hides behind your left leg. There once was a guy named Ted with a wooden leg, like a Lamborghini Bugatti that couldn't turn left. Yeah, there was a guy named Ted and a guy named Fred and a million other people that shared the same bed, but that's the sequence of your life and its events, man. By the ambiguous millions, right? You hide behind Teddy to escape your right leg Freddy, right? It's like, it's pretty bad when you have to explain to people, I'm sorry, Lesbo, but you're the one with the apple pie. You're the one with the pie chart, right? Don't tell me that you can't afford your own props, or tell humans what it's like to fuse quotes of Inconquerable, like taste has a fifth application called pungent that you only find in America before the third world picked up on it, which is a bit like the four corners of anybody's lousy little friggin' rear view mirror fluffy dice before baby booties came into it. You got to be able to use hang it like a decoration or something, sort of like tie a ribbon around your finger so you don't forget this. And you can run around a bin a million times, make sure you don't bump your head either, like Fido. As a reminder, boys have a penis, but girls have a idiot. The difference between a stupid idiot is like both worlds, where stupid is a human in opposed to a computer that's an idiot. So therefore, Greek are bloody stupid and Americans are an idiot. You know what I mean? It's like that, where alpha is alpha, but America is America. You know what I mean? And you rub it in, right? Fit for a can of sardines, until you solve all of the world's tapeworms through the King Dionysus. You know what I mean? And Dionysus is a beautiful name for a boy. You didn't say Denise, you said Dionysus, right? Dionysus is a beautiful name for a boy, right? And Denise is a beautiful name for a girl. But Dionysus is a beautiful name for a girl, and Denise is a beautiful name for a boy. It's like, what's your name? Paul. What's your name? Pauline. Fucking Jesus, Paul, what's wrong with you? The answer to you is written in the first 12-month contract to that bitch. Jeez. George Nuttall himself must have somehow been, gone a bit nutty. Someone said, can't have your cake and eat it too. And you're at a party or something where you get this special, every second person gets potato and leek in opposed to the first one that gets pumpkin. Soup, The goat fetched the soap. Fetching soup doesn't make sense, Only for the, hey, revelation, till somebody sort of pops up in front of your dinner table you spend with six of them, like a Sharia awards night kind of thing, or a Logie awards night or something. They're like, this is Emmy awards, this is my Grammy awards, this is my Academy award, this is my Canadian awards, like we're great. Sorry, mate, I couldn't overhear you said couldn't have your cake and eat it, so you can have my fruit cake and custard if you want, mate. And someone else pops up, oh no, sorry, you can have my fruit cake and custard too, man. I'm sorry, sorry to hear that, man. Oh yeah, if you want, you're more than welcome to have my fruit cake and custard, man. And then everyone just keeps playing, got about 12 bowls of fruit cake and custard, It's like trying to keep any union away from your goddamn, seat, just because you said something. Everybody be looking up for a bloody crumb snatch or a free voucher worth $80. You could knock yourself the fuck out with custard, couldn't you? Yeah. Sort of like the Biggest Losers camp that knows full well that custard is something they never had. You know. If someone stuffed up the recipe, you fancy the freaking things that, you know, it snaps back like a rubber tree. You know, under a rubber tree, you get rubber from a tree, do you? It only stops the bloody electricity from, you know, eating you alive, whether you're in a bathtub real quick smart with a hairdryer plugged into the wall, or whether you walk outside and have a mobile phone fused with the liquid inside of your rib cage during the morgue that you freaking live, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The only thing that will stop a bitch that dry is constituency, but she'd been avoiding it ever since, because the moment she fucking will, she'd be fucking gutted and fish fried. Right? If the last thing a person had to do was run away from their burning building with nothing but a can of sardines or tuna or salmon from their pantry, as all of their whole world burns in front of them, you'd be saying, I'm going to gut that bitch like a fish the next time I fucking catch up with that. You know what I mean? The whole bloody life has been spent like a shallow pond pauper that's fit to provide free red carpet by the media of the world, even after receiving the world's most coveted award. If it was Julian Assange, it was the Amnesty International Award. But if it was Pauline or Pauline someone, right, they would be handed resurrection from the dead and end up as the senator of the damn state or something, you know? Keeping it all at pace, sort of like upping the ante to reveal a stronger link with their community. You know what I mean? And that's what it's like to take a bagel to work and claim it's a crime fighter, but all it has is a really fucking strong nose and a wits to stay close to its partner. And what its partner has at the bloody house all day is bloody cocaine and drugs and shit, because that's what a person that specialises in mineral deposits and shit does in a fucking backbone to any fucking state's state economy. So the dog knows exactly what it's fucking looking for. That dog will rip everything out of your fucking house quicker than you can look for Australia's fucking best, most sophisticated friggin' head types. Which means it's not to say that anybody's corrupted and opposed to these are the best of the best. Do you really want to bloody try the best of 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 the best? A lot difficult if everybody had 6 bloody rubbish bins per residential house to make them pick up their shit today before shit gets worse. And the shit hasn't even fucking scratched the surface yet, eh? You know? Yeah. I will lower the tax on all of your shit in the ground to $50 per fucking ton, and you can bring it to me because I need debris and rubble to fertilise this place on a possible Piang troubling stir fry of goldfish or something. Huh? It's Pyongyang special. Pyongyang, slow it up or speed it down. Won't matter. It'll just come up with Damien. Right? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Until, you know, you realise that sticky glucose substance that no Michelle Simmons or fucking Romy White could come up with, no matter how fast they travelled across the country or stuck it in a Church of Christ gang of 49 or Church of Christ gang of 50. Yeah. You know? Housing and asbestos, or having to look after your asbestos, even when it was decriminalised and no country would accept your asbestos. I know it means inextinguishable in Greek, asbestos, but it's one thing to say in your cheeks. How else can you provide new housing for these people? Did you bother even stripping back the walls of these cheap townhouses? You couldn't find more asbestos stuffed in it than a stiff sponge that picks up all your dribble, like you want to bring your old good resource and experience back to the workforce. You want to, keep it in business. It's bloody cold. It's a rank and file disposition of those that, have a lot of shit to break down, but you can't because it's asbestos. One little tiny foreign fucking particle supposedly will rip through you like a bloody ninjas. But dogs shouldn't eat bones either. Easiest way to get rid of your out-of-date Panadol too. What a mountain of shit. Run for your goddamn lives. Get processed. If you're a professor, you might have the key to helping the Earth stop rather than stunting it for 10 seconds or 15 seconds in a nuclear blast. You might have the key to helping the whole fucking ocean bloody, fish fry itself. You might have the key to the lowest, most bloody darkest depths of this planet, without having to be offensive or a comical, tree of life, in opposed to the knowledge of good and evil that people get caught up in when they illegally distribute someone's, practice sheets or their Yahoo haywire tactics by putting up the worst rap sometimes that a person possibly could, without the PowerPoints, without the top drawer writtens, without Marie Curie's discoveries from any uranium face coat in the flesh, mind you, or even the disguise of Tony Pepperoni tomato sauce, which would, even drive the 21st century protocol for new and improved economic leaders as a central power of law enforcement, only fit for a crime fighter anyway. I know it must be difficult to say, geez, you're a fugitive without a country. Or because some bitch cried rape or something. Fancy if you spend the rest of your life running from something that if you had to face it, right, you'd look worse than Michelle or Romy saying that you invented the shit. You mean to say that you are not Sandy Frank and you just made all that shit up? Right? Right. That's like that's just like saying that Will and Kate, were supposed to understand a couple a little bit older, but Kate never changed or something. No, she never changed. No. She's too busy a princess. Yeah, she's a princess. Yeah. Yeah, no, she's a princess because, of course, nobody has the chance to stick their head out of your ass and say, "Will I am," rather than say, "Thank you," or something, you know what I mean? Yeah? Thank you very much for what? Failing to fucking eat sack out of a friggin' cow's twat? Or can't find any honey ants to keep it sweet for me in this place that I call home. I only call it home because I made love with the place. So therefore, I would have no problem hoping that homosexuals or homosexuals were readily identified as people that can't go any further. They're the kind that'll call you back like Scorpion in Mortal Kombat and finish you like dead man's bones or something. Or Nana. Fancy the fate of late testimony where nobody actually even practices testimonies these days. It must make it difficult for crime fighters to be able to, or the authorities to be able to deal with their oncoming, conditions. Why can't we solve these things? Oh, people don't even practice testimonies. I can't even get them to bloody face the camera correctly. I can't even get them to practice little pantomimes. And how dare you say you've got more humility than Damien, who knows what his last name isn't, so therefore the only thing he can prove is what his first name is, right? That you can guarantee, right? You don't just get to say it's a bitch of a thing, I'll get away with it. Oh, you can't get away with it, right? If it throws itself into a class of behavioural study that, like the first man that invented lithium, tried it on himself before he analysed the dosage. It has to be like that with isometrics, and I don't have to talk about what it's like to sit upright and chew food amongst those that have lost all feelings in their legs, right? It's bad enough to say, get some kitchen mitts and beat yourself up a semi-wad and show us 30 years of retirement and a cheap gold watch. No, it's not that. That's a bit more like looking at the whole thing like a rap, I suppose, where photographs, I pick up a bloody, what do you call it, a body bag and swing it at you like a swordfish, right? Yeah, to wipe out all of your galactic orbital fortress. Yeah, that shows up to protect you when you rap. You whack kind of thing, or something, But I wasn't thinking about rap. Rap ain't nothing but talking. Rap ain't nothing but talking. Yeah, Forrest Gump, you don't say much anyway. Like, yeah, but it's not Forrest Gump. It once was a man called Billy Bantram who ran out of tube of his Bantram, right? His life was his life was a test flop. He worked with asbestos, but died of a really big tantrum. Yeah. All right, let's do that again. There once was a man called Billy Bantram, right, who ran out of tubes of Bantram, right? His whole life was a test flop, although he worked with asbestos, but he died of a really big tantrum. Yeah. These tubes are for you, mate. These tubes are for you, right? If you're singing the song, are you really talking to me, you wrong? See, the thing is, you've clearly been wrong. I've never seen anybody that grabs, like, pendulums with chopsticks, right, and says he's ching-chong. If I looked into his eyelids and watched those whites of his eyes just roll over in the back, like time is an existence futile to what you might say, I'm sick of hearing the same shit, different day. Well, it's a flagrant fortitude far beyond paying your own way through an auditorial pond made for you, and not anybody's sayings as it goes. You are something pre-proposed farther than the Fu Manchu and the overdose that everybody got coming to a fat bitch theatre near you after a 2 feet gobby and in hand-and-eye coordination that was mentally favouring the brave implication to get in the way of the weigh-in. Like, I got a stick and I stuck it up a bird's ass before it flies away, man. And what are you talking about, John Harpawadi? I got the twitch in my wrist that's fit for the magic wand and a middle finger to stick up your ass like Alex Miatri became Robocop in Australia. It's got nothing to do with paraphernalia, empty fountain book for something that you came up with like Canadian Coarse and schizophrenia amongst munchkins, found face down in a dump truck. Not given a flying fish code effort about numbnuts. You could bet with chum change and still find your rusty fangs and go face first into it like a puddle of rain, because it's my pond, but it might be a little pond, so call it a big pond. So I will drain the swamp and I will find a whopping Taiwanese pygmy elephant before the sunlight developed some envelope. Accreditations far beyond the Damien bottle. Better scope, better bottle, better elope with a throttle fit to give you hand cramps, nostril glands, or anything that flared up far beyond impossible in a Tony Hawk's wobble, and end up grinding the same way the ground sounds like an obstacle finding a dog flying your baby off it, what was not all right. Right? You wonder why 6 men sit on benches during fourth quarters and get cockeyed like the subsidised appetite of your fourth quarter your fourth of a quarter pound beef patty. Right? You had to find the fullness of the force, or the fullness of the four, like a four-legged Aussie. Oh, I know I said that properly, because you can't be that fat if your first name's Matt and your mother never named you properly. Can't be saying I'm wait. I want to come to see my daddy. Your dad can't even be that fat either. Her name is Paddy, and you could cut him in half and come up with 2 all-beef special patties. That's when you know you're pied like the piper. And understand, it's got nothing to do with the paper plate to wipe your ass to use the grooves and end up eating the knife as a lifer that talks to a car. I'm just talking about the damn shards or the shanks. Blow it out your ass at Normandy Beach and get me a chihuahua. And I'll say thanks, just like a $2 cup of coffee. That's not even a hypothesis behind Capote, the faggot that bloody wrote that shit. Just like Obi-Wan Kenobi found himself in a hell of a twist. Found himself in a dipstick comparison to what it's like to shin splint your own eyelids before you ditch your dish. Or find yourself with a ball spinning on your middle finger. Or anything worth holographic like a misdemeanor. It's over there, it's not there. It was a spare tool in the shed, and it provides oven cleaner. It relies on oven cleaner. Yeah. So it gave it a tune and stood opposite from hog's breath and find it more compatible to life on dog's breath. Yeah. No, dog, whatever. Yeah, something. Not to say that dogs relate to mammals. Dogs relate to the split spleens of multiplicity fractions. They relate to continental fabrication. They relate to the holograph inside of your mental brain patients, fixed with enormity, fit with the goddamn cordial, and a scene fit for auditorial means far beyond the spits and fathoms of having to reach those comparisons. Veterinarians discharged understand the authorization of hoodgies and big blokes and rappers at train stations. You don't provide anything, not even the capability to even get the fuck out of Centrelink. But Centrelink again finds like something that life experience shows up to treat other people's kids like friends or foes. You couldn't be any more offensive than a chassis wrapped around your father's head in a post when he drove you to Centrelink. And then your steering wheel was in another suburb. It was like plush suburbia, found in urban pacification, earned like a corner in a soccer match. You fingered your person, came up with fucking came up with Aussie crap. Just like flower patches and manic depression. Just like Audi 5000 with the priest, and yet the reverend was cheeky. The reverend was brief. Right? Yep. The reverend was witnessing streaking across the field where bereft birds couldn't find 40 acres and a mule. Right? Fucking just sanguineous or just cool. The emu shield and the kangaroo was a fire and a feed which is higher than you or any migrant that never performed voodoo with one knife to sew you two. Or De La Soul, or Mood Swing to swing a little bit cold like mouldy cheese. Bit like mood you found in your littered cheeks, no different than Meek met mayhem for the first time. In a peachy sunset, found pink and brine and all kinds of leached, all kinds of flying, all kinds of python found in your Monty. All kinds of goddamn sotty. Yeah, could be soggy, I don't know, I'm not even... Why am I still rhyming? Because psychedelic means that I'm forever flying. Pigs might fly, but I know spermicide does. And it's like SETI that finds itself in your inner ear lining. Yeah? Your fat mother was depraved, that's why toilets are, consigned to the next person that buys something with a sold sign on its sales sticker. Right? The advertising was bigger than polarity signals found in the side effect of vagina of citizens missing in their own birth and marriage registry. Curtain rod, iron-clad grip on deficit, deed weary to find bed and breakfast for a merely personified pixie or fairy. Blown out of proportions like 1,000,001 colours that read 1,001 rabbit tails to... Fix the behaviour sheet. I didn't say nunchuckers. I said something that rhymed with left armpit. Yeah. I found that. The hearts of all men is brown like the desert sand, and it rarely yields a dove. It really finds a sense of shade. It rarely finds a sense of of colour chart negativity. There used to be a time where you could bloody press your button and click it at anything. I can't really click, but I know what hydroelectric electricity is now. You take a piece of paper the size of A4, you put it in the water, and as it starts to slowly grow colour and take shape of its order, the photograph provides the key to some type of electricity that ends you up in the fucking corner that you didn't check. Right? Like, over time, your team didn't need to rely on your shit and your cock eyes and your bereft need to join the starting five. Right? And the greatest of all time. Right? Yeah. Right? you see it, there must be a current flowing through that water to provide the light to that goddamn A4 piece of paper. It's an old negative I used to hang up on the bird of a wire, man. I use pegs instead of bloody autopsy cream. If I'm going to use some cream for my nose, I'm going to stick it up my nostrils and make sure that I rub it some more. I don't really want it to escape, so they can take me to the forensic laboratory and treat me like an ape. They can treat me like an imitation. But no, this isn't an accumulation of something found at Sydney Central train station. No, this is the gateway to Australia. Yeah. I find myself in a unique position to understand what departure and arrival means from any, space program. Some people, they know what space is. Others don't even know what photosynthesis is as it hits the ground first before it splashes all over your perfect, beautiful white Andromeda that you were before, I'm not going to sit there and provide testation at the moment because, you'll be massacred. But, I meant the court bench, you idiot, right? But again, so there must be something to the earth, the fish that stop swimming, just like something you turn the key off to the ignition to or something. You got to fit it first. You ain't on drugs, is it? Is it the crank? Is it the crank? Is it the white pony, son? No, it's just got more personalities than 4. Yeah. Some people say I'm fit for 15, 16 job positions in the world. But right now, I'm taking on the flesh of another human being for recorded footage purposes or something like that. Yeah, you might be the next Tommy Selwood of hip-hop, man. If you really think about it, it's got nothing to do with slamming a go-kart into a fucking wall and taking justice into your own hands. Some people prefer walking, others prefer jogging or something. But to get the ultimate satisfaction in this life, right, you play it like a bloody fiddle before you never treat people like a fiddle. Therefore, give no place to a fiddle. Yeah. A bit like the vibrations that find its way to the Caucasan light, does it? I gave birth to a fetus papacious, but this was never a miscarriage. That's a secret between me and my son. My son, my pet, my love, my son above my head, my pet, I said son, but I said son. See, Cain killed Abel the same way that I'm not allowed to have 2 until I learn how to look after this one, right? How can I look after a whole flock or a station, of old grandmothers and grandfathers, You got to eat its way back to nudity. It's a bit like saying he was wrestling me to be first, so I just killed him. I ate my supervisor, did you? No, I didn't eat my supervisor. Right? We didn't have an argument, right? We played Scissor Paper Rocks and he fucking said it was all right. So I just wanted you to see me. Aren't you happy to see me, Mum? He knew how broke, busted, disgusted, sore, sad, sorry and everything you would be to find out that I'm older than your oldest, Yeah, I'm so older than your oldest. You didn't even dare look me in the eyes for 3 months long enough to name me correctly, but in your case, we'll make a perfect exception. I know you're in a desperate hurry to put people's names down for births, marriage, deaths and obituaries records, but that's no different than having to get a Mayan calendar wrong rather than ask a boomerang to come back, And you just so happen to be that one that was born during wedlock. Yeah. The heavens had heads up before I was blessed. I was born in wedlock. Yeah. So therefore, the heavens had all the time in the world. Yeah. You just have an argument about what to call someone's name until some auntie steps in and says, well, you just call the bloody thing Damien or something. Yeah. It's about as beautiful as someone that wants to call their daughter Summer, but one of their own family members have already called Summer, so you suggest Libby and they go straight with that. It's beautiful. Yeah. Follows thing, but, searching for extraterrestrial intelligence is no different than having to say, geez, You say, but then you might say that, you might say that life is only fit for three things: the Father, Son, and whatever the thing was, a daughter or a son. Right? Right? The Holy Ghost is like knowing the arse end of a horse before the Aristophanes charter migrates to the lip of its mouth before it takes on any group session, Yeah. The group 1, the group 2, the group 3. You know damn well you didn't need a photograph finish for Dulcify. I can't believe we're stopping for this. You can clearly see Aristophanes with its fork and its spoon, like the gargoyle on the front of a cathedral, clearly over the line of the lip of the animal in opposed to the other horse on the bloody inside. Right? Geez, there's something wrong with that Rubik's Cube. Yeah, the current would have been flowing so bad Dulcify would have only hugged the rail and nothing even in the fucking aspect ratio, I suppose. Yeah. I don't want a freaking hokey poker all the bloody time, but I want a bloody dulce-do with you. Some dulce-do, dulce-do. Yeah. 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 Which like, oh yes, you take the script and I'll take the bloody script, and together, right, we will all look at life conservatively, right, rather than a bloody prescription, right? Yes, because you've got to. You don't take much to be able to have a prescription in life. The one that says conservatism will disregard it. Conservatism is the only bloody prescription for starters. Oh, I'm just going to try this a little bit. What, like be an idiot? You got it. You don't want to see a mime an expert, Yeah. In the meantime, you just can be a bunch of mimickers and wait for something to be the only people in the world found scoring in defence, like the sport of cricket, or like rugby league, where they pick up the football with their hands and bloody fly away with it. It's like, there's something wrong with your kids. Let my baby play. What? 40 acres and a mule again. How about we just have a fire and a feed and go back to the basics, one step at a time. Oh, no. It's the 40 acres and a mule that will make this nation. Mate, if I gave you a mile, I would cut down every square inch until we get back to square one. Because if I gave you a fucking inch, you're going to take a whole mile, aren't you? Yeah. In most areas of investment, that's exactly what I expect from people. But in this particular case, we can't stop for a lousy system like that. The score's in defence. No, it's the best. It's the best. It must be the bloody best to sit on your fat, flat ass in any position in the crease and wait for everything to come to you before you distribute it to whatever department on the field that you feel you want to get it past, the fieldsman. The fieldsman is no different than what? You say life starts at 40. Life starts at 40. Yeah, the age of 40 or 40 weeks. Yeah. What did the wheels on the bus sound like? It sounded like a crying baby. Right? What did the windshield wipers on the bus sound like? It sounded like a crying baby. What does a moaning, groaning, thieving administrator sound like? A shallow, panting baby that hasn't cried in 40 years. That's what. Right? Shallow breathing to death. Right. Stick a fork in it and pitch it to the miniatures. Yeah. Right. The minotaurs, sorry, my bad. I couldn't figure out that pronunciation that, Yeah. Bird on a wire. Oh, yeah, but that bird flew the coop. Well, just make sure it doesn't fly off the handle. Okay? Yes. How about we just have a fire and a feed and go back to the basics, one step at a time. Oh, no. It's the 40 acres and a mule that will make this nation. Mate, if I gave you a mile, I would cut down every square inch until we get back to square one. Because if I gave you a fucking inch, you're going to take a whole mile, aren't you? Yeah. In most areas of investment, that's exactly what I expect from people. But in this particular case, we can't stop for a lousy system like that. The score's in defence. No, it's the best. It's the best. It must be the bloody best to sit on your fat, flat ass in any position in the crease and wait for everything to come to you before you distribute it to whatever department on the field that you feel you want to get it past, you know, the fieldsman. The fieldsman is no different than what? You say life starts at 40. Life starts at 40. Yeah, the age of 40 or 40 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. What did the wheels on the bus sound like? It sounded like a crying baby. Right? What did the windshield wipers on the bus sound like? It sounded like a crying baby. What does a moaning, groaning, thieving administrator sound like? A shallow, panting baby that hasn't cried in 40 years. That's what. Right? Shallow breathing to death. Right. Stick a fork in it and pitch it to the miniatures. Yeah. Right. The minotaurs, sorry, my bad. I couldn't figure out that pronunciation, that, you know. Yeah. Bird on a wire. Oh yeah, but that bird flew the coop. Well, just make sure it doesn't fly off the handle. Okay?
This ain't operation. Even if you don't touch the sides with the tweezers, you can't place emotions inside another creature. It ain't up to you how another might receive it, and you don't have a right to be bothered by it either. This ain't operation. Even if you don't touch the sides with the tweezers, you can't place emotions inside another creature. It ain't up to you how another might receive it, and you don't have a right to be bothered by it.